Hello and welcome back. So you just heard episode 1 and you have been given a glimpse, just a glimpse of what you are in for. But before we take you back to the beginning with episode 2, let's give Wes a proper introduction. I think this is the time to do it. Wes, can you give listeners an insight into who you are and how we came to do this podcast together?
Andrea, thank you so much. My name is Wes Coons. I'm a Reiki master quantum healer here located in Virginia Beach. And honestly, I'm probably the least likely person to be a healer, retired Marine. I own several businesses. However, I had a unique spiritual awakening, which we are discussing. And just so you know, not everybody's spiritual awakening is going to be this way. And it's probably mine is one of a kind. So if you are looking to connect with us through the show, we are on Instagram at VB Healer, as in Virginia Beach Healer. We're on Facebook as VB Healer. And Facebook has a vbhealer.com page. It's a group. If you want to be accepted in that group, you can request it there. Andrea and I also wrote a children's book. It's a children's series called the Enlightened Children's Series. The first book is already out on Amazon. It's called What Color is Your Dragon? It teaches our children about affirmations, learning how to love themselves, random acts of kindness. And we know if we want to change the world, we have to start with our babies. This book is fantastic. It's really selling well. I hope you enjoy it, and we hope you buy it and share it with your family. And also, we've had a ton of people ask questions about the show. So you can put your questions there, and we will answer each and every question as they come in, either in an extra episode or through the behind the scenes.
All right. Thank you, Wes. And again, that's vbhealer.com. If you want to contact Wes on his website, you can also go to vbhealer on Instagram and do get those questions in because we want to hear from you. And we are going to respond. Wes has a lot of insight and get those questions out to Wes. And follow us on this journey. With no further ado, let's get into episode 2. Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown Life of a Spiritual Nomad. Join Reiki Master and Quantum Healing expert Wes Coons as he guides listeners through the depths of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment to uncover the version of you we haven't met yet. Hello and welcome back to Enlightenment Unknown Life of a Spiritual Nomad. I'm Andrea Rice and I am super excited that you guys have decided to come along on this journey. And Wes, at the end of the last episode, you said that you were going to take us back to the beginning. So go ahead and do that. Take us back to the beginning.
So I'd found this house. It was huge. It was 4,500 square foot. On an acre. There was this fingerling of water behind the house. It had a swimming pool and this really nice detached garage. It also had an area to park an RV. So, all of my toys, all of the things that I had would fit there. Plus, in the city of Virginia Beach, you can't have chickens. And I wanted to have my chickens. And this property gave me the ability to hide my chickens. So, I spent a lot of money to have 8 chickens, I can tell you. And we moved into this property with kind of the mindset of, this was going to be a forever home. There was a real opportunity in my mind at that time to marry this girl and adopt her nephew because we loved this little boy named Connor. And so as we moved in, long story short, that relationship didn't last. And so I found myself living in that house by myself. One of the things I noticed living in the house with her is every time we got into an argument that there was this darkness that came over the house. Kind of like you see in the movies where the corridor just gets longer and longer. I didn't understand it. I just knew that I needed to get her out. Something changed with her. Come to find out, schizophrenia had turned on for her, and she was becoming a different person. So as we fast forward and I was living in the home by myself, there was just things that were weird. I would lay in bed and I would hear this 1920s music playing in the wall. However, when I would get up and listen to the wall, you couldn't hear anything. The music wasn't there. And for some reason, I remember looking out the window and I could see these eyes looking at me. So I would start looking out the windows at night, trying to figure out what was in the yard. And when I turned the flashlight on, nothing was there. So I installed these security cameras because things were just really getting bizarre. So one evening, I went out the back door because I was convinced there was people playing games with me. And I couldn't find anything. But as I came back in the house, I heard a door slam upstairs. And I had this eerie feeling that something had gotten in the house. And just a little backdrop on what the house looks like. It had double doors coming in the front door. There was a billiards room to the left. Upstairs was a big balcony that went to a basically just a sitting area that I ended up converting into a master bedroom closet. And the master bedroom was huge. The hallways were huge. It was a beautiful house. It was way more than I needed. And just something about the house just really never felt right. When I was looking to purchase it, the girl I was seeing would tell me, go over there and see if you feel like there's any ghosts. Because we were kind of, if we were in creepy houses, it was eerie for us. And I would find myself sitting in this balcony area, and the current homeowner at the time had these old sofas and these creepy dolls there. And I don't understand why I would find myself sitting in that same spot over and over. However, it revealed itself later on. So after I heard that noise in the house, I just really started feeling uncomfortable. So in the master bedroom, there was 2 double doors. There were 6-foot doors there. So I started to close the bedroom doors at night, which is not normal for me. And I would leave the hallway light on, and you could see underneath the door where people were walking back and forth. But with the security camera, you couldn't see anything. It was maddening. So I started to take a rope and tie the door shut in the evenings, and so I could get some sleep. So I guess maybe a week or so went by, and I had my German Shepherd Kennedy and this little dog named Sugar that belonged to my ex-girlfriend was still living with me. We're eating ice cream sandwiches, the 3 of us sharing those. We like to do that. And downstairs, we heard this lion's roar. It says in the Bible somewhere that the devil will announce itself with the sound of a lion's roar. That might not be an exact quote from the Bible, but that's basically what it says. And you got to understand, a human being could not have made that sound. This wasn't a lion from Africa. This was this demonic roar that you felt through your bones, and it was on the other side of the house. So I told the dogs, go be dogs. And Andrea, they didn't get up. I can tell you that. They kind of laid down and they were scared. So I reached in my drawer and pulled my .45 out. And as I went downstairs, you could look, you could look into the billiards room and see the reflection on the other side of the wall of where I was going. And there was nothing there. But when I came around the edge of the wall, there was a demon standing in front of me. I don't know how to explain really what it is. It almost looked like somebody took 50 pounds of black chalk and threw it up in the air, and it formed this demon, the horns, the whole 9 yards. And needless to say, I was shocked. I'm backing up as it's running towards me, and the expression on its face, it was as shocked to see me as I was to see it. it ran upstairs and the Yorkie barked at it when it got to the top of the stairs. And then it disappeared somewhere in the house. So, I ran upstairs and I looked around, I couldn't find it. And after that night, after that portal opened in the dining room, things really started to get weird. The music was more frequent. The things that I heard outside, I'm hearing inside. You would close the bedroom door and within seconds see something walking back and forth in front of the door because, the light in the hallway is lit. So if somebody walked by, you're going to see their shadow. And that's what I kept seeing. And so I had asked a friend of mine to come in and bless the house. So for me to have anything to do with the church, for me to go down that level, it was a lot. I didn't know anything about God. Honestly, I was pissed off at Jesus. I was abused as a little boy. And in my mind, if that was real, if Jesus was real, he should have come and saved me. He should have came in that room and taken me out of that room and protected me. So, I didn't even know the Romans had crucified him. I didn't know he was the king of the Jews. I had no relationship, no education, no nothing. So for me to ask somebody to come in and do a blessing was a stretch. I was really getting scared. So my secretary came and she's like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll do it together. And the house had crank out windows in it. So the windows didn't go up and down, they cranked out. And she's doing her thing, and you can hear this tapping kind of like that on every single window. It was like 3 or 4 people were tapping on every single window in the entire house at the same time. And I remember her looking at me, and the expression on her face was, what the fuck, what is happening? So we started to open the windows, and you could hear them tapping on the window as it goes out. And, from being close to you to the farther part of the window when it's gone. And so we continued to do the blessing and open the doors, and all these things seemed to leave, and the house felt really, really good. And so, I thought it was over. The next morning I woke up, the energy in the house was good, everything felt great. Then about a week goes by and it starts to feel eerie again. And one of the things I noticed with the house is every time we did something, it felt great, and then it came back faster and stronger. So a little bit of time goes by, and we did another blessing. I was out of town, so I wasn't there when that happened. And when I got home, I'm like, great, the house feels really good. At this point in time, Sugar went to live with my ex-girlfriend. It was her dog. So it was Kennedy and myself, and everything seemed right. So a few days go by, and I'm upstairs. It's about 10 o'clock at night, eating my dinner, which was an ice cream sandwich, watching MASH or something with the dog. And I noticed the lights down in the dining room were flickering. So they're getting bright and going down. So basically the ghosts were messing with it. And I was just frustrated. I just wanted to live my life. I wanted to move forward. I was getting sick of messing with this house. So I walked downstairs, and when I got in the kitchen, whenever the house got really bad, the lights were blue. Still never figured out what that was, Andrea. It was really bizarre. But the kitchen was blue when I went in there. And so I'm kind of looking around, and I go in the dining room, I kind of peek around the corner, and you got to realize that the dining room lights were these Edison lights. I think they're at 40 watts at best. So, if a group of us were having dinner, you could see your food, but, it's not really bright. So I got a little frustrated, and I told whatever was there, I said, this is a house of God, fuck off, is what I said, and I turned the light off. And I knew I made a mistake. how in the movies, if Superman lands, he hits the ground and it's like this boom hits and this like this sonic boom just hits and shakes everything. That's what it was like in the house. But the sonic boom was an anger I have never experienced before. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I think I really made a mistake. So I didn't go through the dining room because at that point, I'd kind of gotten scared of the dining room. It was just the energy in there was bizarre. So I went through the kitchen and upstairs and I started to notice, it was like there was a fog starting to appear at the top of the stairs. So when you get to the top of the stairs, if you go straight, you go into the master bedroom, which was a 6-foot wide door into there. You go down the hall. The halls were all 7 foot wide, so it was big hallways. And if you went to the left, you went over this balcony area that was quite large, and you could look down into the billiards room from there, or you could look down into the dining room. So as you turn around and look behind you, there's big cathedral ceilings. So I would say from the master bedroom door to that cathedral ceiling was about 25 feet. So this is a very big open space. And I started seeing this fog start to appear. So I was more than freaked out. So I go in the bedroom, I close the door and I tie the door shut, texting some friends. Kennedy's with me. She's on the bed. She doesn't really know what's going on. She's not reacting. And I'm looking at the security camera. And, this fog is starting to show up and you could see the fog in the picture on the camera. And Andrea, I've got pictures of this. So we'll be putting that out at some point. And, I remember it was like a 1920s party going on the other side of the door. You could hear the music. You could hear people talking, like 30 or 40 people talking at a party. There was people walking up and down the stairwell that was significant, like a real human being is on the stairwell. And what was terrifying, besides all that, is there was something walking down the hall coming from the back bedrooms that when it stepped, it shook the upstairs. I mean, this thing had to weigh 600 or 700 pounds. It was massive steps. And every time it took a step, you could feel the floor vibrate and the energy on the other side of that door coming in the bedroom. I have never experienced anything like that before. I was freaking terrified. So I'm texting some friends. They're like, call the police. I'm like, okay. Hey, 911. Yeah, there's a ghost outside my door. Yeah, that's not going to work, right? So I was sitting there, and then in my mind, in my human mind, I'm going to justify what's going on. And I'm like, there's an electrical fire. That's what's going on. So at this point, this is about 7 to 10 minutes into the fog showing up. You're looking at the security cameras. You can barely see the doors to the bedroom. The camera was only about 12 feet away. So I opened the bedroom door, and when I stuck my head out the door and stepped into the hallway, I was instantly shivering. I mean, it was like negative 50 in that hallway. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't normally get cold. I wear shorts 365 days of the year, even when we're skiing. I don't get cold. So as I'm standing there, I'm looking to my right where that balcony area is. And in the center of that area, this energy was swirling. There was like a blackness in the white of the fog. And it was a lot, right? I was absolutely terrified. And I'm shaking. I didn't know what was going on. The house had already started to take its toll on me. My family was already worried that I needed to go to an institution because I was telling my daughter about the things I was seeing and hearing and the movement I would see out the side of my eye in the living room and stuff like that. And so I went back in the bedroom and I tied the door shut. And as I walked back towards my bed, I turned around. This cold followed me in the bedroom. And, my hair is relatively short. And it was like something was standing in front of me, screaming at the top of its lungs. And it was screaming so hard, my hair was moving. But the only fan on the room was about 15 feet away. And it was like a little 12-inch fan on the floor that was facing the other direction. And, this feeling of being alone came over me. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. And my instinct was, I said, get the fuck off me. And I stepped back, and that angered it so much. It was instantly back in my face. And when we moved into that house, my mom had probably been gone for about 7 or 8 years, but I felt her in that house. When Connor would come and stay, you would see him on the security camera talking to somebody in his bedroom, and we knew it was my mom, right? So all of his little pictures we had for his first birthday, my mom would always kiss you on the side of your forehead, and she would rub your shoulder if you were sad. And it's just what she did. So all these pictures of Connor, there's this little globe, this little ball of blur right above his head. So we knew that was my mom giving him kisses, celebrating his birthday. She loved children so much. And so as I'm standing in this bedroom, trying to figure out what was going on, I remember I just started to cry. I was so scared. And I called out to my mom. I said, Mom, I know you're scared, but I need you to help me. You've got to get it out of my bedroom. And one of the things that was happening before that night is the darker the house got, the further away I felt my mom. It was like she was hiding from it. And so when I called out to her, I knew that she was scared. I knew that she had pulled away. And the instant I said that, it was gone. And after that, my bedroom became this sanctuary where things didn't come in the bedroom. You could lay in the bed and look at the door with it open, and you could see teeth chattering at the door. You could see these black blobs of smoke moving around the side of the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. There was a protection in that room that wasn't in any other parts of the house. And I remember how relieved I felt when it was out of my room, but I was panicked at this point. I did not know what to do. And so, I had sat on this little chair at the end of the bed, and I'm just bawling, and I was terrified, and I felt the cold come to me again, and I jumped, and I realized it was different. It was cold on the left side of my head by my temple, and it was cold on the left side of my shoulder, and I knew it was my mother. I knew it was my mom giving me a kiss and petting my arm to let me know it's okay. And, she stepped up for me, and she took whatever that was out of that room. And after that night, she really started to fade away, because whatever was in that house that was coming into that house was so powerful, she had to hide. And so I'm sitting there, and that, this is probably 18 to 20 minutes into this episode. This didn't happen quick. So I'm texting my friends, and Mom kind of left, and about that time, I heard that whatever it was, that demon or whatever, walking down the hallway, and it stepped in front of the door, and you could see the shadows around the door jamb on the left side of the door that's 3 feet wide turn black from the shadow of whatever's on the other side. It was that big. And as it turned, you could hear its feet like clump, clump. You could tell it faced the door. And I just remember this emptiness feeling in my chest. I'm like, I didn't know what to do. And I looked down at my weapon and I said, fuck it, I'm a fucking Marine. I'm going to kick your ass. And the second I touched the gun, it kicked the door. And luckily it was tied shut. So I sat there for a second. I was like, I'm going to kick your ass in a few minutes. That's what I'm going to do. So, I'm kind of running my mouth to this thing, but my hands were shaking. I was so scared. And, so I just remember putting my head in my hands, and I'm hysterically crying at this point. I'm frustrated. I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. I'm experiencing things that shouldn't be real. And then it kind of came to me that maybe if I go downstairs and turn that light on, that it's going to fix this thing. So I thought about it for a second. I'm like, all right, what's my game plan? So I put my weapon up. I'm like, that's not going to do anything but cause problems. I mean, how do you shoot something that's dead? And I remember giving my dog hugs and kisses because I wasn't taking her into that. And as I opened the door, you couldn't see 12 inches in front of you. And I've never been so scared in my life. I didn't know what I was going to run into as I'm literally running through that house. And, saying that I was terrified is an understatement. So as I got down the steps, the fog went away. It was clear. And I didn't go through the living room. I ran around the kitchen, and the kitchen was still blue. And I reached in the room, and I turned the light switch on, and instantly those lights went so bright I had to turn my head away because I couldn't see in the dining room. And the lights were bright, dim, bright, dim, bright, dim. They were just going crazy. And the energy of the house shifted instantly. It's like that anger let go. And so I ran back upstairs through the fog, locked myself in the bedroom, and was watching on the security cameras. And probably within about 10 minutes, all the fog was gone. So I looked at Kennedy. I'm like, come on, girl. I grabbed my .45, ran out the door, ran downstairs, got 3 ice cream sandwiches, grabbed the keys to the RV, and hauled ass outside. And this was the first night of probably 6.5 months that I ended up living in my camper. I had a 31-foot drivable Class A camper on the side yard. And so, I got the dog inside, and I pulled it out, and I set it all up. And, I was just so beside myself, panicked. It was 11:30 at night. I stepped outside of the camper, and I had left my bedroom light on upstairs. And, for a second, I thought about going back in the house. I'm like, I'm not going back in the house. And as I go to get in the camper, I turn around and I look at the bedroom, and there was a demon standing in my bedroom watching me. And you see his horns. It was not the one that I seen that day, because the one I seen the week before was about my size. This thing was about 7.5, 8 foot tall. It was big. It was very large. and I could see its eyes glowing. Of course, me being me, I flicked it off. I said, "Fuck you, motherfucker." And I went in the camper and somewhat got some sleep that night. But once that portal opened the week or so before, that's when things really started to get bizarre. You would stand in the living room and you would see teeth chattering around like the corners of the doorway. And it wouldn't be one set of teeth, it would be 10 or 15 sets of teeth. And with the security cameras that we had, or that I had in the house, you could see, if you're looking through a camera, you could see the corner of the walls nice and crisp, and you could see the outline of the cabinets. But where these energy fields were, which I believe later on we kind of figured they were just like these portals that were showing up in the house, in this one specific spot, you couldn't even see the picture on the wall. It was so blurred. You couldn't see half the doorway. It was so blurred. And there was these multiple portals through the home. So I would sit there on my camera, I would sit there on my phone looking at the cameras in the different parts of the house, just in shock on what I was seeing. And that was the beginning. That's when things started to get crazy. And so I started to go down this journey of, how do I fix that? How do I take my home back? And so one thing I realized is Ghostbusters.com is not a real website. And I'm reaching out to these paranormal places, and I kept coming across really nice people that were not going to help me. They wanted to come out and do a video episode. They wanted to come out and make a mockery of it. And I was trying to find somebody to help me. So I went down this journey for probably a couple weeks of Googling things, trying to find something. And I came across a Facebook group about paranormal stuff. And so I joined that. They accepted me the next day. And I had put a post on there that said, "Hey, look, this is real. My house is super haunted. I am scared. I need somebody that can fix it. And I don't need anybody that just wants to look at this as a circus." And about 30 minutes later, I got a message from a lady named Linda that lived about 3 hours away. So we live in Virginia Beach. She lives up the Eastern Shore. And so to get there, you have to cross this bridge that's 16, 17 miles long. And it costs, like $15 each way. And so, we started talking, and she told me, she said, "We can help you." And the feeling that there was an option, that there was hope, there was something, was beautiful. And I was so relieved. And this lady was so kind to me. And, she came and did so many beautiful things, but we're going to get into that in the next episode, I believe, Andrea.
Right.
Yeah, because that's when, these angels that were sent came to help me, and Linda and Kathleen, and they introduced me to Sandra Grace Brooks. And when we get into that next episode, we're going to start talking about how these healers with these beautiful gifts are helping children. This one point where this child had died, and she helped this child cross over to the light. And you got to figure, I've never experienced any of this. It's super crazy. But the things they did to help me were extraordinary, and I'm looking forward to telling that part of the story too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that come into play to help you in this, from what I understand.
They did. Linda was the first. She brought Kathleen. She introduced me to Sandra Grace Brooks. Sandra Grace introduced me to my friend Jackie, who introduced me to the medicine woman who ultimately ended up fixing everything. Sandra Grace introduced me to my friend Karen, who lives up in Manassas, or not Manassas, but somewhere up north, and she was instrumental in helping me clear some things and do some stuff, which we'll get in. And she's actually, most of these folks are going to be guests on the show at some point. Sandra Grace isn't. She's crossed over in last year and went home, but the other folks are going to be here.
Thank you, Wes. And I'm excited to hear from those other people as well.
Yeah. So stay tuned, tell your friends, and the story is going to start getting crazy here real quick, because this wasn't crazy yet.
All right. Thank you. You guys stay tuned. You're in for a great ride. All right. So we just wrapped up season 1, episode 2 of Enlightenment Unknown Life of a Spiritual Nomad. And I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have some questions for Wes after that last episode. So I hope you guys will join us for a behind the scenes episode. So keep an eye out for it, because I really want to hear some more details about this beginning of this journey. You've been listening to Enlightenment Unknown with Wes Coons, your guide on the quest for self-discovery and the version of you we haven't met yet.